We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand and we'll both try to understand how this vexilla logic podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content.
What's up, Vex Heads, and welcome to episode 12 of Flagged for Content. It's the only podcast that will gladly take money and sponsorship opportunities from any of the many brands that we mentioned here today. And as usual, we have a great show for you this week, and honestly, I don't even have that much to say up top here, which must be a relief. I do want to shout out, as usual, our Instagram winner. This week, it was at Rocky Orsolino. He is a listener of ours from the Philippines, which I have to imagine was part of the reason that we reached some early charts in the Philippines when the show first started. Anyway, Rocky, help us get back there. But yeah, that is at Rocky, spelled like it sounds, Ursolino. Go give him a follow. He's a great dude and has good taste in podcasts. Other than that, I don't have, as I mentioned, a whole lot to say other than to check out the show notes. I've started doing this thing where I'm going to put a lot of pictures in a Google Drive folder, one per episode, and that folder will basically be more or less, other than links that, are to articles and sites, things like that. That'll be most of where the photos are going to reside now. So that'll be cool. Go ahead and check that out. I may even go back and retroactively do that to some of the old ones. But anyway, I'm getting too wordy. I know I had something else to say up top here, and I've been trying to think of it all day, and I can't. So I think we should just get into the episode. So happy Tuesday, everyone. Our new release day, and let's get to it. We have got an amazing guest for you this week. You know him from 80minutesofregulation.com. You know him from repping the state of Delaware a little too loudly, and you know him from the only 16 seed to beat a 1 seed in the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament. It's Curtis Tarver!
Thank you. How's it going?
It's going good, man. Can't complain. How about yourself?
I am doing all right. I cannot complain either.
Yeah. You said you guys are getting a little more overcasty weather than we are here, where it's bright and sunny. But other than that, as long as you're staying out of the, there in North Carolina, staying out of the downpours and all that, I guess you're good.
Yeah, all of the big stuff has passed us by. So yeah, we've still got clouds and there's still debris on the roads, but we're in good shape where I'm at here in Greensboro.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Very good to hear. So you are a member of our Discord, and a fairly active member, I might add. And I think I was kind of thinking about this earlier in the day. I think we're kind of in the Discord era of the podcast. I've had Eric on, I had Brandon on, I've got you on now. And the reason for that is you guys keep giving me really good ideas. Yourself included. And today we're going to talk about, as you know, we're going to talk about some of the more marketable flags, I guess. U.S. state flags, I should say. And
yep.
Yeah, and that was more or less your idea. I think you sent, was it like an Old Bay thing or something from Maryland?
Yeah, I think what it was that kicked it off was that I think I was drinking a beer in a Maryland flag koozie.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah, and then we just started getting to talking about there are certain state flags that you just don't see on koozies. Like when I lived in Boston, you wouldn't see the Massachusetts state flag really on a koozie. For one, the level of detail you'd have to go into. But there's just certain flags that have kind of this X factor about them, this marketable quality that makes them good to put on everything, more or less.
Yeah, I think there are flags out there that are they're branding gold. Both the nature of the flags themselves, but also I think those who live there or have ties there they care a little bit too much. I think it works out well for those sorts of flags that you slap them on everything.
Yeah, as a Tennessean, I can definitely relate to that. It is on everything here. I think I sent you a list before we started of just a ton of things, and I've even added to it from that. But like here in Tennessee, we've got like TriStar Beverage, for example, is one of the biggest, not a sponsor, but one of the biggest like I guess like alcohol, like beer distribution like companies in the state. And they've got like the TriStar, like, plastered on it. They're even called TriStar, all that. So yeah, I can definitely feel that as a Tennessean. And you currently live in North Carolina, but you went to school in Maryland.
Yeah.
And you went to UMBC, right?
Yes, I did. So I went to school in Maryland, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC, which for a lot of folks, at least those who fill out their brackets every year, our claim to fame was that in 2018, we busted them all. You're welcome. But we have been the only 16 seed in the men's Division I basketball tournament to upset a number one. And I had the distinct pleasure of being at that game. It was right here in North Carolina. It was played in Charlotte. As soon as I knew what our draw was, I was like, oh, I'm hopping on the road. I'm going down for that. I played in the pep band at UMBC, so I tried to, I caught, my old pep band, went for the game, and, like everybody, the 135 times before that, a 16 had never beat a 1. So I was, going there to represent my team, didn't have any particular expectations, but when we were tied going into the half, we started thinking, why not us? And, the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, right on, dude. Yeah, I did have some questions about that when you were giving me your credits. The only 16 to beat a 1 seed, I was like, wait, who? I don't even remember this. But once you started talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that screwing up my bracket and most people's bracket that year, I think.
Yeah, so I filled out my series. I can acknowledge, I did my bracket that I thought was kind of going to go somewhere. And then I always, I had to fill out my ceremonial bracket that had UMBC going all the way. And, that one, at least in that first round, I had the upset nobody else had picked.
Yeah, that's true. You're probably one of very, very few that did. Who was the number one they knocked off? I'm curious. I don't remember.
It was UVA, University of Virginia.
Okay.
And what was particularly cool was that they went on to win the championship the next year. They won the 2019 championship. And I from where I sit, I'm like, well, you can't tell that story, their big redemption story without telling the story of the previous year.
That's true. That's true.
I think we'll be part of the lore from here on out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when there's like documentaries made and everything, you guys will be part of the first, I don't know, third of that. Like,
yep.
And after they lost to UMBC, they knew. Yeah, UMBC is very cool too, because I was looking that up in my, very last minute research when you sent me your credits and everything. And they, even on their logo, have part of the Maryland flag on that. Has it always been that way, or?
So that's a fairly recent, it's been the past couple of years. So one of the things, so I mentioned a little bit how the state of Maryland loves its flag. And so our colors are black and gold, which of course is a quadrant or a couple quadrants of the Maryland state flag. But, we have, that most recent rebrand, that is sort of a shield shape with half of the two designs that are part of the Maryland flag. And I'm sure we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a little bit, but, that is a fairly recent rebrand. When they did that, I was like, that's perfect. It's, it, represents, we're a state institution, represents the state, and shows off that flag that I think a lot of Marylanders take a little too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes to that last part, for sure. Yeah, it's very cool. And given that it's like the BC stands for Baltimore County, and these are the arms of the Baron of Baltimore. So it makes even more sense when you get into that kind of symbolism. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first flag. You will have no idea what this is, I'm sure. I'm going to, as you know, as a fan, as a listener, describe it to you first, and then you'll, guess. I don't even know if guess is the right word here today, but you will tell me what this flag is. So with this one, I did have to get a little bit more complicated, because when you look up just the vexillologic terms for this flag, it basically just says it's the arms of this person. So I'm going to get a little bit more complicated. I know it's still not going to trick you, but I had to do something. I had to at least try, you know? So we'll go with the I don't know, the wording that is on the coat of arms that the flag is based off of. You ready?
Yep.
All right. So quarterly, the first and fourth pally of 6, oar and sable a bend counterchanged. And then second and third quarterly are jaunt and jewels over all a cross botany counterchanged. A whole lot of words. I think you know, even if you don't know half those words, you probably even as a listener know what this one is, but can you go ahead and tell me what that is?
Yes, that is indeed the flag of the state of Maryland.
It is indeed.
And so for those of you listening to all those words and saying, what the hell is he talking about? I will. So you probably know the Maryland flag visually. You love it or you hate it. But to put those into slightly more layman's terms, so it's divided into 4 parts. The first and fourth quadrant, you got 6 bars. They're black and gold. There's a diagonal slash across the side that flips the colors. And then the second and third quadrants, you've got cross botany, which I guess I'd say it's got the clubs, you know, from playing cards, clubs on all the sides. And then it is, you know, red and white, and those colors flip as well. So obviously you've probably seen the flag, but that's, I guess, the slightly more layman's terms of that complicated blazon.
Yep, couldn't have said it better. I know I say that every episode at this point, but yeah. It's a very visually striking flag, regardless of whether... Actually, that's one of the things I wanted to go into, is this flag gets a lot of, just opinions on it. A lot of people love this flag. A lot of people hate this flag. I think overall, more people seem to love it, given that... See, I had it pulled up here, but I think it got... it got 4th in NAVA's 2001 survey on the best U.S. state and Canadian province flags, behind New Mexico, Texas, and Quebec. So more people love it than hate it, I guess. But I find when I talk, and you probably find the same thing when you are talking in flag circles and everything, people tend to have a strong opinion about this one way or the other. What's yours?
So I am an unapologetic Maryland flag supporter.
Okay.
So I will say this. So I as you noted in the intro, I will never shy away from the fact that I am a native of Delaware. However, Maryland has been in my life pretty much most of my life. As I mentioned, I went to school there. I'm married into a Maryland family. My wife's originally from Maryland. So, it's been a flag I have seen pretty much my whole life, but, I love it. And I think part of what I love about, it's unique. There's no two ways about that, but also, in addition to flags, I love heraldry. And so with this flag being so steeped in, heraldry, you mentioned that it is from the coat of arms of Lord Baltimore. And so that being a piece of it, I think is part of what makes me love this flag so much. Yeah,
gotcha. That all definitely tracks, especially, as you said, if you're a huge fan of heraldry, this is probably this is the U.S. state flag for you. I come down on the other side where I strongly dislike this flag. I don't know why. Part of it is, kind of like you said, you have ties to it that I don't have, right? So that's one thing. But to me, it is a visual assault. I think this flag should be arrested every time it's flown, every time it's seen anywhere. This flag should not be allowed to walk on the streets. But I guess I'm in the minority. I don't know.
No. How much
minority, but
no, that is absolutely fair. I think that, I can, while I don't agree with it, I can absolutely see the opinion that, it's a bit of an eyesore, especially so the way that it's divided into 4, But then those four, half of the four are divided into four more. Half the other four are divided into six more. Then those flip. Like there's a whole lot going on.
If you like math, this might be the flag for you.
There you go. Yeah, but I can see how if you don't have some sort of visceral ties to it, it's very easy to line up on the other side of this flag.
Yeah. For me, it's just like it's doing too much. You look at it, it's not actually doing a whole lot. It's like you said, it's got, kind of two different things. It's got the black and gold part, it's got the red and white part. But then with those two things, it does too much for my liking anyway. But yeah, I mean, I can, like you said, I can see your point of view on it. If I was raised around this, I was raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. The color orange that UT uses is not visually appealing, like to the eye. It's rough, it's very bright. It's very in your face, much like this, very in your face. But, you grow up around a certain thing, you learn to love it. So now, like, I don't know, it's not my favorite color, but volunteer orange is definitely up there for me. And for a lot of people, it's the same thing that this is to me, a visual eyesore.
Well, and similarly, from Knoxville, like, you may have a different relationship with Rocky Top being played 273 times a game than other people have.
Like, I love it.
Exactly. And some folks might be like, that's not for me. They could cut that down a bit. And so it's all in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, we were driving back. My girlfriend and I were driving back from a wedding a few weekends ago. And I was just playing every mix of Rocky Top that Spotify had. And she was like, all right, I think I even know the words at this point. Can we stop playing? She was raised mostly in North Georgia. So she had a, different relationship to Rocky Top for sure.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. And went to Georgia as well. So yeah, a little different. But back to the Maryland flag. Yeah. I spend a lot of these episodes going on and on talking about symbolism and history, and which I will definitely do this time as well. But I was just wondering if you had any kind of little fun facts or anything picked out that maybe stands out to you, or, any little, I don't know, stories about the flag or anything that you know.
Yeah. So there are a couple that come to mind for me. So one is just kind of how this flag came into being. It was adopted as the state flag somewhere early in the 20th century. It came of pieces that had been used in slightly different ways. So this particular combination was part of the arms of Lord Baltimore. And so the black and gold portion are sort of his own family lineage, whereas the red and white come from sort of his maternal lineage. And so he was, and I think the story goes, he was the firstborn, so he has the rights to both of them, or however it is that works. They both, he's got every bit of right to fly both of them. And so that combination became his coat of arms. Well, fast forward to the Civil War. I
was hoping you would go over this. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, at that point, Maryland was a border state during the Civil War, which means they stayed loyal to the Union while also having significant Confederate sympathizers. There's a good deal of history in that as well. Essentially, had Maryland gone south, the Union capital would have been surrounded by, Washington, D.C. sits between Maryland and Virginia. So, old Abe made it so the Maryland legislature wasn't able to secede. We'll put it that way. But at any rate, so you had factions on both sides of the war during the Civil War. And so the black and gold portion, the Calvert portion, was embraced by the Union folks. The Crossland portion, the red and white, was embraced by those with the Confederate sympathizers. And so those sort of were two separate banners that were used by factions in the same state, but on opposite sides of the war. And so fast forward, about a half century from there. And, when it came to the, putting together a state flag, they brought those two sides back together. And so the idea was, in addition to obviously already being the arms of Lord Baltimore, it also sort of told a tale of reconciliation that probably is a little more Disney ending than the truth, but makes for a good feel-good story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I have a gut feeling at the end of this conversation, I'm going to end up liking the Maryland flag somehow. Because you put it better than I could, especially with that ending there, how it is like kind of a reconciliation. Like you said, probably not as, flowery as they want it to seem, but it is, yeah, these two sides that were opposed, now they're back together. It's basically a puzzle piece or a puzzle, I guess, that you ruined and then put back together. And that in itself kind of tells a very cool story. You mentioned the black and gold part is the Calvert part of the arms, and the red and white with the cross is part of the Crossland, I guess, banner, or they're part of the flag in any case. Do you know anything about why the Crossland banner is what it is?
And
I'm asking this very vaguely for a reason, I guess.
I don't know that I've read that, but what I will say is one thing that has just always, stuck out to me, and I'm sure it's got some heraldic emphasis or whatnot. If you're taking the name Crossland and you try to make a heraldic element of that, you're like, we'll put a cross on it. And so that's always been my guess, but to be honest, I don't know, but I have a feeling you're about to let me know.
Yeah, yes. You know how this works. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's something that I looked up, I think a few weeks ago even, and then when I was looking up the Maryland flag today and yesterday, and this week to kind of like do a little research on this, I came back to it because there was this thing that was still in my head. I was like, I know I've looked this up, but they are called canting arms. And canting is something, basically in French, they're called armes parlantes, which means talking arms in English. And it's basically just a joke. It's not a joke, but it's a visual pun.
Like a play on words. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
There is an in-joke among the Society for Creative Anachronism heralds. But there's the pun, heralds don't pun, they can't. CANT, no apostrophe. Yeah.
Got it.
So it's basically, yeah, a cant, I guess, is more or less a visual pun. And I think the best known one that I can think of is on the Spanish coat of arms, especially if you go back in time and you look at when it was the kingdoms of Leon and Castile. Leon means lion, Castile means castle. So their coat of arms is just a counterchanged like lion and castle. I'll send I'll send it to you now. That one. And that's obviously older because the current Spanish coat of arms has, I think, it has like Granada and a few other ones like on it. But yeah, so canting arms are very clever to me. And I love that. I think Maryland is probably the only U.S. flag, which, like you said, it's steeped in heraldic tradition. And it's kind of the only one that does that. But it's the only one that uses these canting arms. I guess it's kind of the only one that can. No pun intended. Pun almost intended, but I didn't quite get there, I guess is a better way to put that. But yeah, so Crossland, literally, they put a cross and then they stylized it. There's some really nice. They're really funny ones throughout history, like the Bowes-Lyon family, which is the family of Queen Elizabeth, the recently departed Queen Elizabeth's mom. She was part of the Bowes-Lyon family, and I'll send you that one now. It is literally, counterchain shield with lions and bows, like a bow and arrow.
Bows.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this canting arms thing is very cool to me. I'm going to probably at some point do like an episode on it if I can find enough in flags and not just heraldry. But yeah, that's the Calvert part is the black and gold, and then the Crossland is the cross. So makes total sense to me.
It also makes me wonder, and I don't know if there's any truth to this. Maybe it's just me looking for meaning where there is none. But I think about things that come forth from like the Middle Ages or whatnot, and I'm wondering if that canting tradition is what brought us the Canterbury Tales.
I mean, it could be. It could. No idea.
Yeah, and somebody's probably gonna be like, no, he has no idea what he's talking about. Or maybe I'm right. I don't know. But that's where my mind went once you started talking about that. But very cool. You just taught me something new that I didn't know about a flag I've been staring in the face my whole life.
I was gonna say, I was determined coming into this episode because as we talked off air before we started recording, you're the first like big flag nerd that I've had on. The first one that, knows as much or more than I do about these things. So I was determined to get like one thing on you.
Well, mission accomplished.
And now I got the one thing, and I think we can stop the episode. No. No, but that's probably the only thing that I'll get over on you. So, but yeah, I just thought that was very, very interesting. And then, yeah, the other coolest thing that I found was about the Civil War. I had no idea about any of that. It makes total sense, but yeah, just didn't know it. See, I think there was one other. Well, I guess really let's get into the marketability of the flag and what we think makes it so marketable. And maybe if you could just anecdotally say a few places that you've seen it. Obviously, we got the koozie that you had on that beer that you sent the picture to that kind of spawned like all of this. But like, where else do you typically see the Maryland flag that you don't normally see like another flag?
Oh goodness. I would say any and everywhere, but just to give a few examples. So, I had a koozie to stick in the beer vein. There are any number of breweries that are based in Maryland who incorporate those colors into, or, incorporate the flag into their logos. Pretty much if you want to signal visually that you are from or related to the state of Maryland, throwing that flag up somewhere is a pretty easy way to do it. I've got a Maryland flag croaky.
Okay.
I've got, I had half a mind to go around this house and count the various places that it appears in some form or fashion, but there are plenty of them. I also think about the fact because by its very nature, because it's got those two separate patterns, you can use it for tiling things. So like if you just need, you could use it as a backdrop, if you are, putting a pattern on something, it works for that. It makes its appearance in the uniforms of both the Baltimore Ravens and the Baltimore Orioles. So for the Ravens, it is, I don't know if it's considered a secondary logo or what, but you most often you see the Ravens head with the B on it, but you also, there's also a shield logo. It's got the BR, and then in the opposite, again, it's quartered. In the opposite quarters, you've got the Calvert and Crossland colors. The Baltimore Orioles have started incorporating. It's on a sleeve patch that has the Maryland flag on it. Pretty much every one of our state universities incorporates, certainly the colors. University of Maryland College Park is mostly associated with red and white, but they use the black and gold as well. UMBC, where I went, is black and gold. Towson's another state university that's black and gold. What you just sent me in the Discord there is, the Baltimore Orioles. It is a full on tiled sleeve of the Maryland flag.
It's doing a lot, just like the flag itself. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And while most folks will stick to the colors as they are, because I think that's part of the meaning, you will also sometimes see it rendered in, black and purple for the Ravens or black and orange for the Orioles. I've seen, sort of a grayscale version of it or whatnot. So, they will occasionally switch up the colors to make it clear who they're representing for, but
yeah,
it is always going to be, that those two distinct patterns, that'll be slapped on just about, to shout out another company, not a sponsor, but contact Andy for sponsorship inquiries. Route One Apparel, which is, I think they're based out of College Park, but they will sell you just about anything with a Maryland flag on it.
Yeah.
There is a cottage industry for selling Marylanders the flag back to themselves.
Right on. Yeah, one thing you mentioned that I think is very important for this discussion too is that, like you said, for say the Ravens, you can take the gold out and make it purple, so it's black and purple, something like that. I think, and we'll kind of talk over the course of this episode about what makes a flag marketable and what makes it, well, I guess, yeah, marketable. But to me, that is one of the things, is being able to interchange colors and things like that and still have it be recognizable for what it is and still have it represent what it represents. So
Absolutely.
like in my case, and I'm going to talk a bit about Tennessee. We won't go wholly into the Tennessee flag because I've done that on an episode, but like you can, like for the Predators, for example, the Nashville NHL team, they'll do like a Tennessee flag and they'll change it to like the yellow, black, and blue that they have, and white that they have. Tara was talking in the Discord, shout out Tara, about like, you know, I think there was like somebody had come up with an alternate, you know, flag for most states, and the alternate that they came up for Tennessee was orange and white, but it was basically the flag we have now, just orange and white for the balls. And yeah, I think like that is one aspect of what makes a flag good and marketable, is you can change the colors. You can change even a design element here or there. Like you could have just half the Maryland flag, as you said, and it's still recognizable and people still know what it's representing, plus this new thing that you're now adding to that representation. And yeah, I mean, that to me kind of, that's the biggest thing.
Well, and one of the ways that you mentioned, you know, just using half the flag or whatnot. So kind of some of its derivatives, there are several of the counties in Maryland that play off of the flag in some form or fashion. So for example, Baltimore County, it maintains the black and gold portions, but the red and white portions, it is, oh gosh, and you know, I'm going to lose points for not knowing this, but I think it's like a plow and a water wheel are in the opposite to talk about the industry that brought that county into being. The flag of the city of Baltimore is essentially just the Calvert portion. So just the black and gold portion. And then it's got an escutcheon or a shield in the middle that, has the Washington Monument, not the one in DC, but the Washington Monument that's in the city of Baltimore, as the inlay on that. I actually, one of the flags that I own is just the Calvert portion, because as a UMBC alum, I really love flying that black and gold. And so, I can, you know, if I am tailgate, you know, I've taken that out. I think most recently I went to see UMBC lacrosse play down here at High Point University, and so I had my Calvert banner and my UMBC flag and was flying those two because, you know, that way it's, you know, while I think obviously we've got just as much right to the full flag, I'm like, you know what, we're going to keep it black and gold. And so just another way you can use that flag.
Yeah, I don't blame you. If I can move slightly from the Maryland flag just because of a point that you just made, talking about how variations on the flag, like you said, these Baltimore counties and maybe probably like cities, municipalities and everything too, you know what the Tennessee flag looks like, I assume.
Yep.
As most probably do. But I'm going to send you a few different Tennessee county flags, and just to kind of show you what I'm talking about or what we're both really talking about.
Yeah.
So you can see that one is Knox County. That's my home county. This is Van Buren County.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see both of those basically take the Tennessee flag and then just reverse the colors. Here we've got Union County, which doesn't bother reversing the colors. It just, instead of the TriStar, it puts the shape of the county and then the year it was founded. We've got the old flag of Chattanooga, which I wish was still the current flag, although I may actually look at redesigning this one myself at some point. But you can see, yeah. I mean, I'm probably sending you too many, but you can see how, like, exactly to your point, they're iterations on the exact same thing. And it works because, you know, like, if you know at least as much as you and I do about flags, heraldry, etc., then you know when you look at any of these flags, any of the freaking 10 or whatever that I just sent you, you'll know probably what state it's in. Now, the ones with the color reverse, it's a little bit different, but I mean, look at all those and tell me they're not the same damn thing iterated over and over.
They absolutely are. And, you know, to draw from the North American Vexillological Association, which I know you and I are both members of, in their good flag, bad flag, one of the things they say is be distinctive or be related. And these are very clearly related. Like, you know, they are part of, you know, you look at all of these and you're like, oh yeah, that's related to Tennessee.
Yep. Even the Nashville one, which again it doesn't take the colors from the Predators. It gave the colors to the Predators rather, but it's still like, I mean, it's the same thing. It's for those of you who can't, you know, see them, which is everyone listening. I will put these, I'm going to start doing these like, what is it called? Google Drive, like folders in there, like I did for last episode, where I'm going to drop these all in there with a description of what they are. So go to the show notes afterwards and take a look at all these, and you can see exactly what we're looking at now. But yeah, to your point, it's exactly be distinct or be related. And I think when I was thinking, I was like sitting out on the porch taking, you know, my last few notes and my last little bits of research for this episode. And I was thinking, okay, what does make a flag marketable? And some of it we've already gone over. But at the end of it, I kind of just boiled it down to a bit like you said, it's kind of the same things that makes a flag good. It's the good flag, bad flag thing from NAVA. It's, you know, distinct or related. It's, you know, easy enough that a child could draw it, basically, from memory. It's only use a certain amount of colors. It's these things, but basically all those things don't only make a good flag, but they, I think in the end, in my opinion, make a marketable flag as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right about that. I think, you know, if you think about brands and logos and whatnot, they're the sorts of things like they're easy to latch on to because they're easy.
Yeah. Couldn't put it better. All right. So, yeah, unless you have any more notes about the flag of Maryland, I'm going to kind of move into our next one.
Let's do it.
All right. So, yeah, we will go ahead and move into our next flag. And you know how the show works. This is the second one. So, this is one that you are going to describe to me and the listeners. And it should have dropped now.
All right. So this is a field of dark blue, of deep blue. At the center of the flag sits a we'll call it a tree. I personally know it's a palmetto tree, and in the canton is a crescent moon with the I don't know what you call them, the horns. The pointy parts of the crescent moon are to the upper hoist. So we'll call it that. Yeah,
the top left for those not as Vex inclined.
There we go.
Yeah. So, yeah, and is there any chance that you could tell me what flag this is?
Yep, that is the flag of the state of South Carolina.
Indeed it is. I'll insert some clapping there or something. Yeah, so you promised me that you could talk at length about this one, so I'm going to let you start if you want, and I'll probably just pick up a few pieces if there's anything I can add.
Yeah, so when it comes to brand elements, I mean, I think South Carolina probably does it better than just about anyone. And I'll remind y'all, I live in North Carolina, so that is high praise coming from me. Talking about the other Carolina, but I think part of it. So I guess to back way up, you know, South Carolina is the state where the Civil War began, at Fort Sumter. And, I know that this flag's association with the state, dates back, or variations of this anyway, date back at least that far, if not farther. But what it has sort of been simplified to, the palmetto and crescent, and you might hear folks just say, like, you know, the palmetto and crescent, similar to what Andy was saying about like TriStar in Tennessee. You know, you'll have things that bear the name palmetto and crescent, or palmetto or crescent or whatnot. And this is,
oh my God, yeah.
I think, this is a brander's dream. I would imagine that if you are a person who is from South Carolina or holds South Carolina's in high regard, this is an easy tattoo. I mean, this is something you might slap on your ankle or your bicep or what have you. And because of how it is, how it plays out as a flag, it is one color palmetto and crescent, one color background, and so it makes it so easy to morph into whatever you want for it to represent. So South Carolina, like most states, is full of colleges. I have seen this rendered in garnet and black for the South Carolina Gamecocks. I've seen it in orange and white or orange and purple for the Clemson Tigers. I've seen it in teal for Coastal Carolina, in light blue for the Citadel. It is very easy to morph into whatever brand you want it to be. In the same manner I talked about the Maryland flag and slapping that on anything that's related to the state, it's very easy to do that with this as well. Whether that be a brewery or a brand of vodka or a pimento cheese, any sorts of number of things that come out of the state of South Carolina are very easily identifiable if you put this palmetto and crescent on them.
Yeah, I mean, guess who wants pimento cheese now? Thanks for that.
Sorry, not sorry.
No, it's all right. There's football on today. I'm going to go grab some of that during the game break and then go watch the 4:00 games or something. But, yeah, I mean, you said a lot. Like, it's a brander's dream, really. I see this one on so many. I think it was just yesterday. I've got a rental car right now because mine's still somehow in the shop. And so I'm trying to drive real careful and safe and everything more than I normally do. So I wasn't trying to take pictures of other cars and, stuff while I'm driving. But there was a car that I think passed me, I don't know, yesterday that had this exact thing. Now, obviously, like for the sticker purposes, they move the moon a little bit closer to the tree so that it can be all one thing. But even then, even if it's not, I mean, that's kind of to our point. Like, it's still, you still know exactly what it is, even if the moon is shifted slightly, even if the tree is a slightly different tree, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I see these on so many bumper stickers, especially my dad goes down to Hilton Head every year, and I used to go with him growing up and everything. And you can't avoid it down there. Like, it's Hilton Head's barely South Carolina, but you cannot avoid this flag. It is on koozies, it is on bumper stickers, front license plates, everything. I see a lot of those like grits, like girls raised in the South, and then it's got I was gonna say, the exact thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dude, some of our listeners have no idea what these stickers are, but they're like omnipresent around here, or especially around there. And like you said, I mean, again, to your point, they're all done up in different colors. You got them pink, purple, blue. Like, well, I guess blue's probably standard, but a little bit of everything. And the thing.
Well, and
sorry, no, go on.
Oh no, but you mentioned in Hilton Head, like it's because it's so brandable. Like you don't even have to really love this state. It's like, hey, I had a fun time in Hilton Head. Let me get something with the palmetto and crescent.
That's a great point.
I had a great time in Myrtle Beach or in Charleston or in, Greenville in the upstate. Like, had a cool time. Let me get this sticker.
Yeah, because like Hilton Head's not like, it's a very, from personal experience, it's very touristy. I mean, as it should and would be. But like, yeah, so it's not a bunch of people who have these like South Carolina, affiliations or whatever, like you do to Maryland in that sense. But like it's a bunch of tourists that come down and they're like, oh yeah, I go there every year, most years, let me grab this. In fact, like the one that I think I even sent you in the main Discord was a flag that my dad got me from Hilton Head. It was a South Carolina flag.
Yep.
That thankfully was standard, because that's the other thing I wanted to talk about with this thing is there's several different variations on the tree. Because the tree in the flag is not, it's well defined, but it's not, I don't know. It is well defined and simultaneously not. Like, it's not symmetrical. Some of the palm fronds have lines going a little bit further into them. Some of them don't. Some of them are like jagged on the edge only. Sometimes the moon is a little bit smaller. Like, this one is kind of all over the place as far as, if you get it from like a third party vendor, it may not be the actual same tree. But I think it's I think it's kind of like both. I don't know. The way that I think of it is to our point and the credit of our point that you can even make it a slightly different tree. You can even make it a slightly different blue, and people still know what it is, if that makes sense.
It does. So it's almost like, so going back to that, like, be so simple a child could draw it. Like it's there as long as you don't focus on the details. Like if you tell a kid, draw me a palm tree and a crescent moon, they can knock that out. And because of that, you have so many different versions. Like most folks, they'll get the moon facing the right way. And like most trees will probably resemble, a palmetto or palm tree or whatnot. But the variance, I'm guessing probably the way it's written in state law or something, it probably just says, palmetto tree. And then from there, it's up to the artist's discretion exactly what that looks like.
It must be. I think more or less. There is obviously a standardized version, but there's so many, like I said, third-party off-license kind of places that do them that, yeah, you can kind of make it as long as it more or less resembles a palm tree. I don't think anybody's going to complain really too much. And
Yep.
Do you know any of the symbolism of the palmetto or the crescent moon?
I don't know that I do.
The palmetto, so actually it used to, one would think, or at least I would think, that an early version of this flag was probably just a blue field with a kind of stylized palmetto on it. But the opposite is actually true. It used to be just a less dark blue field, slightly less dark, with just the crescent moon part. And the crescent moon said Liberty inside of it.
Now that I've seen, yeah.
Now that, not all of them, because there have been so many different versions, not all of them said Liberty, but they all pretty much had the crescent moon. At various points, it was facing, like you said, upper hoist, top left, basically. At some points, it was shaped kind of like a U almost would be.
Yeah.
And it moved around, but that was the original part of it. The palmetto was added later, and the origin of the crescent is, well, actually, I'll go into the origin of the blue. The blue comes from the uniforms of the soldiers that were defending Fort Johnson in South Carolina. They were this, I guess at the time, a less dark blue, because if you look here, I'll actually go ahead and just send you the one that I'm looking at, just so we're looking at the same one. It's a little bit less dark blue, but it's kind of like when you think of like the Civil War, Unions and Confederates. This is kind of that dark blue, more or less. And yeah, the crescent moon comes, like I said, the uniforms were dark blue on the soldiers, and they had the garrison, the 1st and 2nd regiments anyway, had a silver crescent on the front of their caps, kind of like, well, like right front and center there.
Yep.
I don't know where that comes from. I tried to look that up, and it kind of went nowhere. But they had a silver crescent. There was a moon, but that was, I think, more in the U position, which is why he originally, not this one that I sent you last, but originally why he had it like that. And I think it was probably just a design choice or something. And then the palmetto comes in later in 1861, which you may recognize as a banner year, if I can make a pun here. But it's a reference to Moultrie, the guy who designed this original South Carolina flag with just the moon. It's a reference to his defense of Sullivan's Island. And Sullivan's Island is just an island off the coast that has a bunch of palm trees, or palmettos, I should say, as do most South Carolina islands. Again, having been to Hilton Head, just palmettos like everywhere. They're not only proud of it on the flag, they're proud of it in every sense. So they make every effort they can, which I'm not arguing with, to, plant them as often as they can. So yeah, that's the general gist of it is before pre-Civil War, it was just the crescent. And then I said 1861, defense of Sullivan's Island, defense from what? The Union. That's when they added the palm tree. And then again, it's the palm tree has gone through so many different design changes. It's variably, I should say, it's looked sad sometimes, where the branches are kind of down like this. I don't know. That reads to me as like it's like kind of like a sad tree almost.
It's kind of Weeping Willow.
It's a little Weeping Willow. But I think they settled upon the best version of this. And there are third-party places, like I think Flags for Good. that I know we talked about in the Discord some, but they, I think, have a quote unquote better state flag for this one, which is the only thing they change because South Carolina is, like you said, is so marketable and so good. The only thing they change is I think they make the palmetto, what's the word?
I think it's wider, it's broader, like the trunk of the tree, I think, or I don't know.
That and you know, when something's mirrored on both sides, why can I
symmetrical?
Symmetrical. Thank God. I could not think of the word symmetrical. Yes. I think basically they make it symmetrical, and like you said, I think they maybe make it a little bigger. And that's pretty much it. But yeah, any other thoughts on this one? Any other places you've seen it, anything like that, or?
Like I said, I think this is another one that you see all over the place. Again, with me being just a state to the north, it's kind of hard to escape. And just because it's such an easy brand.
And you mentioned in the Discord as well that the Carolina Panthers, who are, you know, branded as the Carolina Panthers, not North or South Carolina Panthers, they have both the flags of North Carolina and South Carolina on the stadium at all times, I think. So
yeah, they do. And yeah, I think that's to further hammer home that they are representing for both of the Carolinas.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think I had too much more on this one, so with your permission, I will move on to the one that I probably did the most research on, honestly, because it was the one that I knew the least about, I think.
All right.
And I'm going to go ahead and have you, let me pull it up here. Now, you may not know as much about this one either, but we will get into it. So go ahead and just visually describe that one to me.
All right. So visually, it is a yellow field, and at the center of the flag, you've got a circle. I'd liken it to the sun. And in the top, bottom, left, and right side in red, you've got I don't know what I guess I'll call them rays since I called it the sun. You've got 4 coming out on the top, bottom, left, and right, extending. They're actually, I hadn't noticed this before, but they're almost, if you look at your middle 4 fingers, because the two center rays are slightly longer than what would be your pointer and your pinky. I don't know if that, you might tell me if that makes sense or not, but that's how I'm seeing it. So you've got yellow flag, central red element, with rays coming out, 4 rays apiece on the top, bottom, left, and right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I had not thought about the finger thing, but as you were saying that, I was obviously staring at my fingers and being like, you know what? Yeah, I could see that for sure. Just take off the opposable thumb that we got. And then, yeah, you're good. And all right, so I'll stop fiddling around, but do you know which flag this is or what state?
That's the flag of New Mexico.
Indeed it is. I knew I had to stump you early because I wasn't going to get you on stuff like this. Do you know anything about the flag of New Mexico?
I do not. I could harbor a guess, because I am inclined to believe that is some indigenous imagery, but that's about as much as I've got. So I don't know anything more than that.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. It's exactly that. It is indigenous imagery from the Zia Pueblo Native Americans.
Got it.
Sorry, I keep reading the official state site uses the old word of Indian, but I'm trying to not stare at that and say something else. But yeah, no, it's exactly that. It does come from a native design. It's one of the few. Well, I guess I shouldn't even say one of the few, because I realized, I looked this up just today, that Tennessee actually has a state flag pledge, but I wasn't raised saying it or learning it, so it didn't really factor in. But this is one of the few that I think probably has a stronger presence as far as a pledge to it goes. And actually, I'll go ahead and say that pledge. We'll get that out of the way first. But it's available in English and Spanish, which makes sense. And it is simply, I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. And then that same thing in Spanish. I'm going to try this. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo Zia de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. So
Excellent.
same thing there. Yeah, I took a little Spanish. Main thing's French, but it's a Zia, the Zia people's symbol, and I think the Zia people themselves, from what I can tell, are actually named themselves, or the white man came in and named them, which is probably more likely, after this symbol, because this symbol is also called a Zia. And that's ZIA, ZIA for those that are in the Commonwealth. I know we have a few listeners over there. But the New Mexico flag is very interesting to me, not just from a design standpoint, but also historically. They previously had a flag that looked like this piece of shit that I'm going to show you now, which I'm not hiding my feelings for.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that...
You want to, like, very briefly describe that one?
That's a piece. All right, so you've got it is a teal background, like not even a pretty teal.
Yeah, like generously. Yeah,
and so in the Canton, the top left side, you've got the American flag, not counting stars, but it's a perfect grid, so probably around 48, or no, it's probably 46 or 47, because it's got a 47 in the top right corner, so the upper fly. The center of the flag has New Mexico written out in a block font that I'm not even sure they're using the same font size for all of the different letters.
No, they're not.
And then in the bottom right, so the lower fly, you've got what I assume is the state seal. And then around it in a kind of half circle, it reads the Sunshine State, which, you know, first of all, I think they're trying to go to war with Florida on that one. But yeah, that is what this monstrosity of a flag looks like.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you didn't say it, I was going to say it. They're, coming for Florida, apparently, with the Sunshine State thing down here. I don't know if Florida had standardized that at the time or not. This was... during 1915, by the way, is when this flag was flown, and pretty much only during 1915, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, gunning for Florida with the Sunshine State. They've got the 47 up top, but you were right the first time. The state, or the U.S. flag in Upper Canton in the Canton has 48 stars, because when they designed this flag, even though they're the 47th state, a 48th had been admitted. So
okay, yeah, because
there's a lot going on.
1915, so Arizona was the 48th, and that was, I think, 1912 or so. So like their neighbor had come into being, so they went 48th. Oh, I see that. Okay.
Yep. And so it's so confusing on so many levels. You got the 48 star US flag, you've got the 47. Then like you said, New Mexico in like a diminishing font kind of, and then the state motto of a different state around their state seal. Like, check out the show notes, listeners, because this one's fucking wild. Like, so the only reason that they flew this one, or designed this one, I should say, at all, is because there was the World's Fair of 1915 was in San Diego, and every state out of the 48, not the lower 48, just the 48, had an exhibit and had their flag, all that. And so New Mexico they looked around and they realized that it's been 14 years since we've become a state and we still don't have a flag. So let's create one really quick just for this World's Fair. Like, we got to have something. And I guess if you are just bringing a flag into existence that hasn't existed previously, that has no known, history, anything else behind it, but you want people to know that your exhibit is the New Mexico exhibit, I guess you do this. I guess you just put the name of the state real big on the flag and say there's no confusion. It honestly, like, the U.S. flag being in the Canton thing looks like a Liberia thing, which we have covered in previous episodes, and which I know you've briefly talked about in the Discord with the rest of us as well.
Yeah, this flag is every bit of, oh shit, that was due today?
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly that. Oh my God, World's Fair is tomorrow. What do we do? So thankfully, they only had this, like I said, it was designed in 1915. I don't think it realistically flew that much around the state in the kind of interim in between the current one and this one. But the current one was put in 10 years later, so there's a chance, that it was flown among people who were not proud, or shouldn't have been proud anyway. But 1925 comes along. Actually, I think it was 1920 that the DAR, which I believe I talked about in the last episode or the one before that, but the DAR comes along. This is like during this era where the DAR, as I've talked about in the last 2 episodes, is coming along and really making a push for bigger, better state flags. Well, not bigger, but better state flags, things like that. Or in states like New Mexico that doesn't even have, because this one was unofficial, doesn't even have an official state flag. DAR is coming around and saying, let's all get state flags. So they, as with the ones I mentioned in last episode, they put on a contest to design the new state flag, and it is won by Harry Mera, M-E-R-A. Mera, I'm not sure entirely. The funny thing about it is, Harry is not the guy who actually designed it. It is designed by his wife, who we should give the name of Reba Mera. That's a name. Almost all the same letters in both. Swap out that M and B. But so Reba Mera designs this flag. I guess gives it to her husband because it's 1920 and says, "Here, honey, go turn this in as the flag," and it wins. And it's just, to me, I don't know. That's like not much of a story there, but there's like a little microcosm of a story, and the fact that it's 1920 and women aren't allowed to do shit, even design flags. Yeah. So it's like,
well,
and her husband's like an architect. No, not an architect. He's an archaeologist. Oh, archaeologist. Okay, so he's familiar with the Zia sun symbol and the Zia Pueblo people that he's found on this 19th century pot. So he's got, like, I guess you could charitably say anyway, that he's got the vision, but lacks the, chutzpah or whatever to do it, and then gives it to his wife and she does it. Sorry, you were going to...
Yeah, that sounds about, par for the course then and present. A dude taking credit for the labor his wife did.
Oh, yeah. The literal labor and like the metaphor. Yeah, like we're pregnant. Yeah, okay, buddy. Anyway, this one is very interesting to me, not only from a marketable standpoint, but from a standpoint of, okay, so there's a few things that make this one special, even among U.S. state flags, as far as design, colors, things like that. Is there anything, and I know I'm painting with a really wide brush here, but is there anything about this flag that you could see that makes it unique among state flags? Like I said, very open-ended. So, if you can't get it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, so I think, well, first of all, I think it does a whole lot of things right, but I'm trying to think. I don't know that sole central element that is not, like a seal or something like that, seems out of the ordinary in a good way. And just that, that bright yellow and the symbol itself, it honestly feels like the Sunshine State that they claim. But but outside of that, yeah, I don't know what that might be.
So there's a couple things. The main one, well, actually, I don't even want to say the main one, but it is one of only 2 U.S. state flags to include distinct Native American iconography. Can you name the other one, just out of curiosity?
I believe it's Oklahoma.
It is, in fact, Oklahoma. See, I knew you knew your shit. It is Oklahoma. It is one of 4 U.S. state flags to not contain the color...
well, it's got red, so probably blue?
Blue. Yep. Because think about our U.S. state flags. A lot of them are a seal on a bed sheet, and that bed sheet is usually blue.
Yep.
The other 3 are Alabama, California, and Maryland. Maryland, no blue on that one we've talked about.
Yeah.
And yeah, California and Alabama. Alabama I've talked about on a previous one. Haven't gotten to California yet, but yeah, that tracks. And even out of those 4, it is the only one to not contain the color white.
Oh, yeah.
So it is the only U.S. state flag that has no blue, no white. And if you look at, even if you come in our Discord and look at the little like flag emojis, even if you press each one of them, type all of them out, it is an overwhelming field of white on blue. That's what it looks like. It's blue bed sheets with mostly white state seals on them. And this one, neither of those. So it's very unique. In addition to both of those things, I talked about the NAVA, the North American Vexillological Association survey in 2001 on the US and Canadian flags. This one ranked first. This one won overall.
I can see it. This is beauty and simplicity.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's a KISS, like keep it simple, stupid, like whole, like, I don't know, motto, whole thing. And it works for them. It's based on the colors of a country that you can probably guess.
Spain.
Yep. And just that. I mean, not just that, but I will go into I've got a quote to read here from the New Mexico Secretary of State, who is currently Maggie Oliver. I'm sure this statement has probably remained unchanged on the website for years, but it's fascinating to me, the little symbol in the middle, because it means it's got so much wrapped into it all in one thing. So this is a quote from the New Mexico Secretary of State. Quote, "The state flag of New Mexico has a modern interpretation of an ancient symbol of a sun design as seen on a late 19th century water jar from Zia Pueblo. This Pueblo is thought to have been one of the 7 golden cities of Cibola, I think, which explorer Vasquez de Coronado sought. The red sun symbol was called a Zia and is shown on a field of yellow. This distinctive design reflects the Pueblo's tribal philosophy with its wealth of pantheistic spiritualism, teaching the basic harmony of all things in the universe." So, unquote for a second, but yeah, so basically teaching the harmony, and you can see from that how they're all like equal in these 4 directions. So, yeah. Again, quote, "4 is the sacred number of Zia, and the figure is composed of a circle from which 4 points radiate. To the Zia Indian, the sacred number is embodied in the earth with its 4 main directions, north, south, east, west, in the year with its 4 seasons, I don't have to tell you, in the day with sunrise, noon, evening, and night, and in life with its 4 divisions, childhood, youth, adulthood, and old age. Everything is bound together in a circle of life without beginning and without end. The Zia believe too that in this great brotherhood of all things, man has 4 sacred obligations. He must develop a strong body, a clear mind, a pure spirit, and a devotion to the welfare of his people." So, honestly, I almost teared up reading that. That's cool stuff.
That's really cool. Yeah.
The 4, like, I've never really thought about the fact that there are also 4 sets of 4 is another nod to the number 4. And this whole flag is basically a nod to the number 4 and a nod to what the Zia believe is, the 4s and everything. Like, I honestly, like, I've always kind of loved this flag just on, like, looks alone. But when you think about it, of its, like, the main directions, the seasons, the times of day, and then the 4 divisions of your life, and then they're all tied into a circle that's never ending, like, that to me is very, very cool.
It absolutely is. I think that, like you said, this has been, I've always enjoyed it on a visual level. I think it does, it does the flag thing right, as we've stated, but knowing all of that beyond, behind the symbolism itself, it makes it even cooler to me.
Yeah. And the fact that it's kind of like, it doesn't even matter which 4 are which, like, it's up to your interpretation, more or less, like, which one's the age one, which one, it doesn't matter. They're all interconnected. Like, yep. I don't know. It's very cool. Nick from episodes 1 and I think 4 or 5 went to New Mexico recently and got me one of these, and I could not be happier because, first off, he got me a good quality one. and secondly, like, yeah, like, knowing all this now, like, it'll probably be the next one that I fly tomorrow. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say about it other than like I said and you answered, or I asked and you answered, I should say. It is based on the colors of the Spanish flag, obviously being New Mexico. There was Old Mexico, or, regular Mexico, whatever you want to call it. And this is Diet Mexico, or Mexico Light. And it's based on the same colors as Isabella's colors, I believe, Queen Isabella. Although I think those have been Spanish colors for quite a while. This one that I just sent you is the colors it's based on.
Okay, yep. And that you just sent me is the Cross of Burgundy.
Yeah, the Cross of Burgundy, which has ties back to France, there's a whole lot. I should honestly do an episode that's like historical evolution of flags or something. Flags through the ages or something. I've got the books for it at this point, but anyway. So that's New Mexico. again, I say this a whole lot on the show, but I don't think I have anything else to say on it other than I don't think I would quite put it at number one like Nava did, but it would for sure be up there. And again, it's based on those things that we've already laid out. Go ahead.
I would be interested to see, I can acknowledge I live clear across the country from New Mexico, so I don't see this in the same way I do South Carolina or Maryland, but I would be interested to see if it gets kind of that same, slapped on everything as a brand in the same fashion that those do. Because I haven't seen it personally, but I also, I can acknowledge I've got physical distance from the state.
Right. Yeah. No. As a look behind the curtain, Curtis and I talked off air. Well, I think even in Discord before all this.
Yeah.
And talking about I don't know if it's as marketable or if it's as on as many things as ubiquitous or whatever as some of the ones that we're talking about. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to throw it in anyway, because if it's not, then it should be, more or less.
Well, and I'll, it might just be my East Coast bias speaking.
Oh, mine too. I mean, in Tennessee, I've crossed the Mississippi twice. Once was to go to a Walmart in West Memphis, Arkansas.
So barely crossed.
When I was already in Memphis. Yeah. We got to go across the bridge. I got to see the big, Bass Pro Shop pyramid and all that. And then the other one was for a bachelor party weekend thing in Colorado, but that was flying. And yeah, I've never been to California, New Mexico, Arizona. There's a ton of places I need to go. I should ask Nick or any listeners if you guys have any information on how widespread the usage of this one is and how, I don't know, I guess, yeah, marketable to the name of this episode it is, then yeah, feel free to chime off in, I'll put this up on Instagram. Go off in the comments, things like that. I would love to know, but I can't imagine it not being on a bunch of stuff. I mean, our TriStar, like I said, in Tennessee is on everything. So with a symbol this cool, it's got to be on some stuff. The only hiccup,
I would think so.
The only hiccup that I can see is it is a native symbol, so it can be, it's possible to have the conversation about it being reappropriated or misappropriated or things like that. And if it's a holy symbol, something like that, for the same reasons that you can't fly the Saudi Arabian flag at half mast, or for reasons that they didn't want it on the FIFA soccer ball that everyone kicks because it's got, the Shahada on it. I could see this being a case of that. I looked into that a little bit, but most of what I found were kind of isolated cases of somebody who's native taking offense to it, and generally the person who's in the wrong changing their mind and taking it down. Now, not all the time, obviously, because we know how folks work, but I haven't found too many instances of people being upset by its commercialization, but I'm sure there are more that I just can't find. But to me, that's the only hiccup to the kind of marketability that we've been talking about.
That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I would like to think / hope that anybody who's out there, if it is indeed marketable as we see visually it is, hopefully they're paying it the appropriate respect at the same time.
Right. The one thing I will say is the design is not copyrighted or trademarked, so anyone can use it. And I'm sure that leads to good things, and I'm sure that leads to shitty things. And,
absolutely.
With those laws or copyrights not in place, I should say, that's just kind of, that's kind of how it is, unfortunately. But anyway, we'll move on to, I think I had one other, actually, I didn't really have another flag that I wanted to go over. The other ones on my list were Colorado and Tennessee, both of which I've talked about on episodes before. But I did want to just kind of run through a list of, I don't know, maybe other marketable flags or places that we've seen these marketable flags on. So I've got a list of things that I've seen the Tennessee flag on. I know we didn't talk about Tennessee today, but I wanted to kind of run down the list as to, I guess, kind of give an insight into what, in my opinion, maybe not everyone's, what makes a flag so marketable.
Yeah.
And these are things that, and this is just off the top of my head earlier as I was kind of sitting on the porch thinking, but the TriStar especially, I see it on koozies. I have personally a bumper sticker that's got the Millennium Falcon, but it's got the Tennessee flag on it. So like in the middle, it's got the TriStar, and then in the front where the lasers are, it's got like the blue, fly side stripe. All of our overpasses have it now. So like if there's an overpass that's being built currently, it's got a stamp, like I don't know if stamp is the right word, but it's got like it's pressed into the concrete and then painted. Cornhole boards. I know cornhole is real big here in the South. I don't know if it's as big other places in the world or up north, but I was gonna say, and I'm sure you've seen some with Maryland and South Carolina designs, but
yep.
Hats and clothing. It's all over hats and clothing. As I mentioned before, it's like, you can get it in any color, any way that you want it. TriStar beverage, I already mentioned them. There's a ton of things here in Tennessee that are named TriStar this, TriStar that. Coasters are the perfect size and shape for it because it's a circle. It's a no-brainer. Front license plates, so many, because here in Tennessee we are not required to have a front license plate that matches the back one. So many front license plates that are just the Tennessee flag or just the TriStar. It is on our I voted stickers, and the O in the word voted is the TriStar with the circle. And then the entire sticker itself is shaped like Tennessee with the blue stripe over near Johnson City. And the last place I have is on the Titans helmets, and it's a little harder to see there, but they do have this like sword that also makes a T that's kind of going into or over the top of a circle, and that circle has the 3 stars in it. And so when we're talking about marketing flags, this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about.
Yeah, that is the Frank's Red Hotification of flags. I put that shit on everything.
Yeah, dude, that's how, when we were first talking about this episode, that's, I think, what hooked me on the whole idea was you said that exact thing in Discord. And I was like, fuck, there are a lot of states that put that shit on everything. And it's the ones that you would think. So let's go, the ones that can, realistically.
Yeah. Well, and I'll give you one more where I have seen Tennessee. So I have, you may be aware of this, and I realize it seems like all of my references tend to be alcohol. But so, for example, Uncle Nearest, which is a distillery out, I believe it's just outside of Nashville. But the story, I won't give the cliff note to the story is that Uncle Nearest is a black man who taught Jack Daniels everything he ultimately put into his whiskey. And so his descendants have now opened their own Tennessee whiskey distillery. If you get a bottle of Uncle Nearest, that seal has the TriStar on it as well.
Oh yeah. Dude, I have, not currently, but I have had some Uncle Nearest here in the house. I think I'm just going to look it up here on the fly, but doesn't Dickel have the Tennessee TriStar on it? I feel like it does.
It would not surprise me. Yeah, because that's the other thing is like, with Tennessee whiskey being a known quantity, I would imagine the TriStar gets used quite a bit there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not Dickel. It's another one that I'm thinking of that I just can't think of now. I think here locally, our Chattanooga distillery does have it on there. I'm not going to look it up. But a lot of, even like local breweries and stuff have it on there. Even, they're specific to Chattanooga, but they'll still have the whole statewide Tennessee TriStar on it.
Yep.
And I'll have to, Uncle Nearest. That sounds good about now. But yeah, one of the things about Tennessee, and I know this is not flag related, but if you go anywhere else in the world and tell them that you're from Tennessee, they'll go, "Oh, Jack Daniels, Jack Daniels." And you're like, yes, that is the one reference.
There are far worse things to be your claim to fame.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was going to say, here in Tennessee, there are far worse things that people could think of. Hey, probably in most states, to be honest. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wind it down, I think, with that. I wanted to actually go into your plugs a little bit because you've got a few exciting ones of your own that you're kind of like, getting up and running now. So did you want to talk at all about 80? What is it, 80?
Yeah, 80minutesofregulation.com. Yeah.
That's it.
So 80 Minutes of Regulation is it's a blog / site that I've been writing on for a while. And so I am, as has been mentioned, I am a sports fan. I'm also a band nerd. And so, that's the place where I kind of talk about the two together. So talking about sports, talking about marching and athletic music, and the combination thereof. And so, 80 minutes derives its name from, if you think about a college football game, the regulation time is 60 minutes and then halftime is another 20. So that's kind of where the name 80 minutes of regulation comes from. And, outside of, being a flag nerd and whatever else, that's another one of the things I pay a whole lot of attention to. So, 80minutesofregulation.com is where you can find all that stuff.
Awesome. And you even kind of merged those two interests here pretty recently with some help from the Discord, right? You made a flag for 80 minutes.
I did. And yes, the Discord came through on that as well. So, my, on my own, kind of the elements I knew I wanted to include it. I've got a logo for it. I put that on the flag. I kind of used that same symbolism that I just mentioned and incorporated the middle quarter of the flag is basically halftime. And so it is a white, red, white stripe with the logo in the middle. And yeah, the Discord came through. Had a couple things I was trying out, and folks shared their preferences and provided some excellent feedback, and the flag now exists. I can fly it wherever I wish.
Yeah, that was a really cool project. I'm glad you came to the Discord with that, because obviously everybody in there is fairly passionate about flags and everything. And the one that you ended up doing was the one I voted for. But I think what really did it for you was the coup de grace was Tara saying it kind of looks like the middle fess is peeking through the drum a little bit for that red.
Yep.
For those who are listening, and go to his website, of course, 80minutesofregulation.com, but it's kind of a reverse Austria, or a current the Belarusian protest flag with an 80 minutes on a drum in the middle, or an 80 on a drum, like a kick drum in the middle. And yeah, very cool. I think you even designed your pirate flag based on a little bit of help from, if not the show, the Discord or something, right?
Yeah. So your very first episode, I think it was your first one.
I think it was the second one.
Or second one.
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, so the pirate episode that you did actually kicked me in the butt a little bit. So I have had kind of this idea that's been bouncing around in my head for a little bit about a pirate flag. A lot of them play on similar imagery that, go back and listen to Andy's second episode and listen to that. But things like the skull, the crossbones, a sword, an hourglass, a lot of those things. And after hearing that episode, I was like, oh, well, these are sort of the things that's been bouncing around in my head. I kind of put a couple of them together, and yeah, I've got my own Jolly Roger these days.
Yeah, I think we gave you the idea for the hourglass, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was happy for that. Yeah, it turned out looking great too. I've seen you flying it. And if you're wondering why I'm talking this much about the Discord as a listener, it's because you should join it. Not everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have a really good time in there. We've been chatting it up today. Even I'm probably gonna come back to at least 10 messages or something, but. If you're not sure exactly, because it's come to my attention that I just plug the Discord a lot and don't really explain what it is, but if you're not sure exactly what the Discord is basically a chat server, and I know that sounds scary or unnerving or whatever, but it's very self-selecting. So I've got a group that's just for the show. Obviously, we don't only talk about things that happen on the show. We talk about if it's flag related, heraldry related. We got even, channels for memes, even if they're not flag stuff. Send pictures of your pets, if you're having a rough day, go to the pet one, because that one's fun. Stuff like that. We've got varied interests, but it does kind of hone in on our flag interest as well. So there's always an open invitation to that on flagged.rocks, or if you go to our link tree, which is just linktree.com/flagged for content, all spelled out, not the number 4 like our social media is. But speaking of our social media, that is on Twitter and Instagram. Go to @flagged4 content, and you'll find us there. And we're growing in followers and growing in scope, I think. So not just the Discord, but everything's growing on the show. So get in now, get in early, come talk to us. We love chatting about flags, non-flag things, really any of it. Like I said at the top,
it's a good time.
It's a really good time. And yeah, like I mentioned at the top of the episode, the last 3 episodes could not have happened were it not for the Discord and people chiming in and having really cool ideas, which is another channel in there, ideas for the show, I think it's called. So yeah, that's the thing I'm going to push the most this week, but obviously follow us on the rest of our social media and Curtis, do you have anything else to plug? Or I know I kind of cut into a little bit, but
yeah, well, just, kind of where you can find me on social media. Probably the most complete me. I say jokingly and not jokingly that, it is the best blend of 80 minutes of regulation and regular ass Curtis. We'll be on Twitter, 80mins. Likewise, that same will get you to the Facebook page for 80 minutes of regulation. Because I'm not quite as good at branding as some of these flags are. My Instagram handle's a little bit different. So, the one for 80 minutes of regulation is all spelled out, EIGHTYMINUTES. Or if you want to follow me personally, it's CWT302. YouTube's the spelled out version again. And then lastly, so if you're a podcast listener, which clearly you are, a couple years ago, I recorded a podcast. I work best in time limited podcasts because that's what I've got the attention span for. And so I did a 10 episode run going through the history of marching bands in college football. So
cool.
It was in conjunction with, CFB 150 was the big hashtag that they used back in 2019 when college football celebrated its 150th anniversary. And so I made the podcast. If you search CMB 150 on pretty much any podcast platforms, you'll find that. It's about 10 episodes, pretty quick and easy to listen to, if you want to give that a listen as well.
Awesome, man. Well, that all sounds good. Yeah, I'm going to go follow you on all those places. So yeah, the only thing left to us is, Curtis, as a listener, I'm sure you've noticed I've been struggling to end the show. I have no idea what to say. I kind of outsource it to my guests every time. Would you be so kind as to lead us out of this one?
All right, here goes. We'll try this one on for size. Like a flag in the wind, we gotta fly.
There we go, folks. Thanks for listening. This has been Flagged for Content. Perfect, dude.
Cool.
We gotta fly. I like that one.